Right. There we go. Welcome everyone to the January 2026. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to the Accounts Receivable Core Committee. Glad to see everyone. My name is Gerald Floyd. I am the Statewide Accounts Receivable Management Coordinator here at DAS. Just a second here, let me get invites in. Here we go. Okay. So first on the agenda today, reminders, the Q2 ARPM report for agencies subject to the Oregon Accounting Manual is due on February 2nd. Some of you have already submitted. Thank you very much. But for those of you that are still working on it, just a quick reminder, about 2 weeks left to go. So just a quick reminder on that. So if you are still working on it and you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and happy to help with that. But other than that, that's all I have for announcements. Don't know why I had 10 minutes for my time on that. Any questions on the ARPM report? Hearing none. We'll move on to our next agenda item. Wanted to share with everyone that there has been, with the formation of the Office of the State Controller, they've been working on the creation of the website for the Office of the State Controller and have been migrating pages to be under that. It's kind of under the Office of the Chief Financial Officer. And so right now they have been automatically forwarding anybody that is using an old link to redirect them to the OSC page that has been created for that same program. So just let me get to. So for example, here is the swarm page, and you will now see in the URL that it is DAS Financial /OSC pages AR, so for swarm. And so I just wanted to share with that. So again, if you have any bookmarks, those will likely continue to work because they have the redirect in place. I don't know, because I'm not part of that committee that is working on the formation of those pages, how long those redirects will continue to work. So I just wanted to let you know, so that as you are clicking into those pages, you may want to see that if your bookmark does not have the OSC, you may want to refresh your bookmarks so that they will now have the OSC within your bookmarks, so that you can not lose them in the future if those redirects suddenly stop working. So it's not a big deal right now, but I didn't want anything in the future to be an issue for any bookmarks that you may have had within not just the swarm page, but anything for if you work with SARS or OSPS, for example. Those are all now under the Office of the State Controller and are all part of the formation of the pages under the Office of the State Controller, which now has a page that looks like this. You can see the various programs, different resources, different trainings, and so it's looks a little different. but all has the same type of information in it. And so if you hadn't seen it already, wanted to share with you that has been something that they've been working on again behind the scenes, and has been recently rolled out without a whole lot of fanfare, but just wanted to let you know that is there. So again, you don't have any broken links or bookmarks and so forth in the future. So any questions on the OSC website? None? Okay. Next agenda item, legislative session coming up very soon. February 2nd is the first day. Just wanted to ask, no, I don't think bills have dropped yet, but wanted to know if there were any bills that agencies might be aware of that might be coming, which could impact accounts receivable or debt collection for your agency, or just in general, or things that you might have been asked about that, could have been something that a legislator might potentially put into a bill, or I know in a short session, it's not something that typically comes up, but I know that there are some concerns about the budget overall. So there definitely could be some things that might come up during the short session. So wanted to see if there were anything that anybody knew about. I don't, the way my thing is set up, I can't see hands raised. So please feel free just to unmute and chime in if you have anything. None? Okay. Well, I will certainly be monitoring bills once they do drop, and we'll be reaching out if I have any questions, and let you know if I see anything that I think you should be aware of if it affects your agency. So, for what it's worth, we'll try and keep you informed as best we can for the short session. And hopefully it'll be quiet, but we'll see where it goes. Next on the agenda, PCF contract renewal update. So last year we spent time with a committee reviewing the PCF contract, the statewide price agreement, and put out a new RFP and did an evaluation of the proposals and selection of new vendors. And late last year, those selected vendors were finalizing those contracts with the state procurement office. And so those have been going through that finalized process. There is one that is still pending. They're kind of still getting the last little details worked out with the state procurement office. And for most of you, that go through the Department of Revenue, this won't be something that generally affects you because this is done through the Department of Revenue. But wanted to make sure that you knew that because these new price agreements are in place, that there could be some change at the Department of Revenue and the vendors that they use. And so there could be, I'm not speaking for the Department of Revenue, but just kind of giving you the awareness that there could be some shifting as to those vendors and the placements of accounts with vendors. And so just be aware that you might see accounts that are changing their status as to the PCFs and being reassigned at perhaps a little different frequency than you might have otherwise expected. And it more likely has to do with the implementation of these new price agreements. And so this is just kind of here for your information as to what their bids were for their solicitation that we did. And they did have the opportunity to bid for some other services, such as portfolio management, which is not necessarily defined in the price agreement, but generally these are kind of some things that they could do in terms of assisting with, kind of account management, so to speak. They can assist with pilot projects. And then other was an opportunity for them to list other services that they provide. Legal collection is one. And so some of them did bid that, as well as international account collections. Just kind of going through some of these here. One bid various positions. They could do analyst, research, and investigator, and they bid basically how much they charge per hour for those positions. If you needed work, kind of contracted out for those types of services. Here's one, out-of-state garnishments. If you, let's say, had let's say civil penalty that you had recorded so you could issue a garnishment, but they moved out of state, and that state had the reciprocal agreement that you could garnish based on a recording that was done in state here in Oregon, so you could garnish out of state, but you wanted to do that for somebody that moved out of state. This vendor can do that for you. Another service that they have is what they call early out, which is outreach or payment plan management. So these are some things that are not directly tied to debt collection. There are other services. These are things that you could, if your agency chose to purchase those services, they are available to you under the price agreement. So we just wanted to share this with you, that these price agreements are currently available on the Oregon Buys system. And so I will share this spreadsheet as part of the minutes, just to make it easier for you to find these PO numbers in Oregon Buys, if that's something that you want to find, as well as the this information is part of the documents that are in Oregon Buys as well. So that is kind of moving it closes the process for that contract renewal, with the exception of the one that is still getting everything finalized and signed. So just wanted to let everyone know that process is essentially complete, as much as we can expect it to be at this point. So any questions about the PCF contract renewal? None? I know the speaker was working earlier. Okay.
I think you've caught us in a Monday, Tuesday, and we're all a little confused.
Yeah. All right. Next agenda item. AR honor roll for FY25. The recommendations for those agencies to receive the honor roll have been presented to the CFO. I have not received the approval back. As soon as I do, I will begin sending the emails out to agencies to notify you that you'll be receiving The honor roll, we're doing a little bit different this year. Instead of sending the printed certificates, we will be sending an electronic attachment, but we will be asking you to verify the agency director name for the letter that will go to the director. That basically kind of is the congratulations and identifies the AR folks that were involved in doing the work to receive the recognition. We want to make sure that we've got the right name and title there. In the past, this has kind of been done as part of the Gold Star effort, but because that kind of lags a little bit behind this year, we're kind of incorporating it into the honor roll so that we can move that process up a little bit and kind of also help with the Gold Star to move that process up a little bit quicker. So we'll be kind of asking for your assistance in verifying that agency director information when we send you the electronic honor roll certificate. So be looking for that. If you did not receive the honor roll for some reason, we will be in communication with you as to the reason why and working with you on helping to try and make sure that for FY26 that you're able to avoid whatever mishap occurred so that you're able to receive that recognition for FY26 and going forward. So any questions on the honor roll information? Oh, and when we do send the electronic version, we will also, for those of you that would like a printed version, you will be able to reply to us and we will be able to print one for you, but our default will be the electronic version. But we will still give you the option to receive the printed version if you would like it that way. Any questions?
Hi, Gerald. This is Angela Tees from OBDD, and I have a question regarding the honor roll. I was wondering, is there access to or where I can find a history of an agency's receiving the honor roll?
There is. So on the statewide accounts receivable management website, over here on the quick links, there is an honor roll award history. And on here by agency number, there's the name and it shows the last 5 years. And for the years that you received it, there will be this little certificate symbol. If you did not receive it for a year, it would be blank.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay. Had another document here. I think I closed it. Sorry, I should have had this up before now. So this agenda item is basically just sharing a bit of a reporting summary between FY25 and the FY24 LFO and the ARPM. So first off, a bit of a comparison within the ARPM. Total receivable collections went up, not quite $2 billion. So again, the total receivable collections, not the L&D. And so things like one of the large ones, for example, can be PERS. You've got large receivable collections that come in from all of the contributions from all PERS employers. So there can be, big changes in the total collections made there. So just off the top of my head, that's one that comes to mind. L&D collections went up a considerable amount, almost $60 million roughly. So good work there. Total accounts receivable outstanding basically stayed the same. And so that's good news in the ARPM comparison. And the accounts receivable over 90 days past due as a percent of the total outstanding accounts receivable. Slight uptick there. Again, when you're looking at the total accounts receivable staying the same, the 90 days past due, that means we had an increase there. So there can be a number of factors that go into that, but something to definitely look for as, what can we do to avoid accounts becoming 90 days past due, perhaps, to try and get that moving in the opposite direction for FY26. For the annual performance measures, the average percentage of accounts that were paid in full within 60 days, we saw about the same, 72.2. So only a 0.2% difference compared to FY24. And the average percentage of accounts assigned within 90 days of meeting the definition of L&D, a slight decrease, a little less than 1% compared to FY24. And when we say within meeting the definition of L&D, there are reasons why accounts would not be assigned, such as being on a payment plan. So not being at 100%, it is justifiable or explainable as to why we're not at 100%. So, this in and of itself as a measure, understanding why it can go down, it doesn't give us all of the information. I'll say that. So certainly something to keep an eye on. If we saw it continue to definitely go down, we would want to, certainly understand that we're seeing other factors that's causing that. But definitely the fact that we're still in the same ballpark as 24, we're not seeing a huge shift, means that our data is remaining constant. Same with write-offs, it's 0.3%, very consistent there. And then for the LFO, this shows the breakdown of the information reported by branch. Just under 1.3 billion for additions, 640 million in L&D collections, with $3.7 billion ending balance, which is just a little bit under what the beginning balance was from FY24. So, things are kind of at a plateau a little bit in terms of our balances. And then doubtful accounts, about 1.5 billion. So the adjusted ending balance is roughly 2.2. So, we're kind of a little bit static in that regard, although the collections did go up in comparison. So that's good news. But this definitely kind of helps us break down that executive branch, which is subject to, for example, the OAM policies and the centralization and assignments under ORS 293. So within the management report that goes to the legislature, we kind of break down the comparisons for 2025 versus 2024 within the executive branch. So you can kind of see where some of those shifts were. So you can see here additions decreased a little over $200 million. A lot of that had to do with a change at DOR, where in 2024 they had an increase in their filing enforcement activity. And so 2025 was a return to normal activity. Collections was an increase. There was a couple of agencies that saw some increase there. And the details of these, I was going to start breaking these down to share here, but these are, all of that information is in the management report, which will be published to the legislature and posted on our website by February 1st. It's currently going through the communications team for review right now. But it breaks down, kind of what is the cause or the largest agencies that had the biggest change in that, that caused the $200 million difference or the $87 million increase in collections. So you'll be able to look at that and kind of read for yourself where those big changes came from. So I didn't want to spend a lot of the time today going over the same things that are available in that report, but I wanted to at least share with you what I thought was the good news, which is additions are down, collections are up, ending balance is remaining relatively static. Some would say, well, it's not going down. True, but there is always going to be a certain amount of what you would call bad debt. And so having that remain static is better than going up. And so in today's economy and things like that, I think that is still a positive to be able to say we're not seeing these balances continue to grow. So, these are the things that I think are the talking points that are worth looking at. Again, for executive branch agencies, accounts that were assigned to the Department of Revenue, other agency accounts, additions went down, collections went down about 2.4 million, and the ending balance went up about 34 million. So there are more accounts at OAA now, as well as accounts assigned to private collection firms, which most of this number is by the Department of Revenue for the tax side. And so additions are up, collections are up, as well as the ending balance being up. Accounts that are exempt from assignment, total exemptions went down about $40 million, and the total ending L&D balance is down about $5 million. And then exemptions as a percentage is down about, not quite 2%. And then this is an interesting one. When you look at the largest categories of exemptions, and then its comparison between 25 and 24, DAS approved exemptions, some of the larger ones here being for the employment department for the DAS approved exemptions. This relating to the fact that they have a restriction from the feds on their ability to use third-party collections until it meets a federal definition of uncollectible. And so we provide them a DAS-approved exemption that specifies that because of that, until it meets that definition, they are not subject to that assignment. So that's where most of that number comes from. The next one being spousal and child support. So the DOJ Division of Child Support being those accounts. Payment on multiple accounts. So if you've got agencies where there are multiple, the debtor has multiple accounts and they're making a payment on one, so the rest of the accounts are not assigned. And then finally, a court-ordered judgment. That is one that kind of crept up there new this year. So it's always interesting to see where these, which of these categories are the largest ones each year. So payment on multiple accounts kind of definitely moved up this year. So that was an interesting change for us. But that's kind of what you'll see in the accounts receivable management report when it gets published sometime here in the next week and a half or so. Any questions on what you've seen here? None? Okay, next on the agenda, AR contacts list on the Swarm website. So over here under the quick links, there is the Swarm contact list by agency. And we do this periodically. Actually, you know what? I think I skipped our OAM review committee update. I apologize. So over a year ago, I had asked for volunteers to be on an OAM review committee, and management asked me to put a hold on that process due to some other updates that they were in process of doing with the OAMs. And towards the end of 2025, I was finally able to get permission to move forward with the review committee. And so December was our first meeting, and that group met and we did, I think, 3 policies, and we have a draft schedule where we will be doing roughly 3 of chapter 35 and the various forms that go along with it through roughly November of 2026. There are also, as part of that process, about 4 draft policies that were done a while back that were available for management's review, and again, part of what management was looking at doing but didn't get to is now being folded into this committee's efforts to look at those draft policies They are designed, or were identified, I should say, to try and fill in gaps in topics that were not previously addressed within Chapter 35. And so the hope is that once we are done with this committee's efforts, that these changes will help make the language of Chapter 35 easier to read. The identification of topics easier to find, and the associated forms easier to use. And so I just wanted to let everyone know that we were finally moving forward with that, here we are basically a year after I'd asked for those volunteers, and no updates since then. I wanted to let you know what was finally happening with that. And so if you have any policies within Chapter 35 that you have had any questions or thoughts, or just not sure, they're unclear to you, please send me those comments or questions so that they can be incorporated into this committee's efforts, so that we can try to address those, so that we can make this end result better for everyone. So any comments or questions on any of Chapter 35 or the associated forms is welcome. So any questions on that? Hearing none? Okay. Back to the AR contacts list. So every so often, we ask everyone to look through this contacts list and verify that for your agency that the contacts that are listed are correct, and the associated emails and phone numbers are still correct, and to please email the swarm email address with any updates that you may have. We can have up to 4 AR contacts listed if you would like to have that many listed. So please do that, and let me know your agency number and the contacts that you would like listed, and if you have an order of preference, please let me know. I can do that as well. Also with that, similarly but separate, we have the accounts receivable news list, which is the method that I use to communicate things such as the announcements of the ARC agendas and sending out the minutes and upcoming trainings and things like that. It is a news list. Please make sure that anyone, if you're new at an agency, please make sure you are subscribed to that news list. I will periodically go through the contacts, the agency AR contacts, and try to make sure that everyone that is listed as an AR contact is also on the news list, so that you are receiving those communications. But anybody can be on the news list, irregardless of whether they are listed as an agency AR contact. But if you are an AR contact, please make sure you are also on the news list as well. So, any questions at all about the AR contact list? None?
Hi, Gerald. This is Angelique. I guess I just wanted to clarify, do you only want to hear from us if we have updates, or do you want to hear from us either way?
Only if you have updates.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll assume that what we have is current and you're getting the information. And does anyone have anything for roundtable? None? Okay. Well, don't forget your Q2 ARPM reports by February 2nd. Our next ARC meeting will be on March 17th at 2 p.m. and we will be adjourned for today. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Gerald.
Thank you,
Thank you
Gerald.
very much. Thank you.